Welcome to Dark Feed, where once you find the feed, it finds you. The rain hadn't started yet, but it was coming. In the hours just before dawn on February 14th, 2000, in the quiet town of Shelby, North Carolina, the air felt heavy, dense, tense. The kind of pressure that settles behind your ears before a storm. The kind of silence that almost dares something to disturb it. At the edge of this silence sat a small house on Oakcrest Drive, nestled among similar houses built for working families. It was modest, one story, no white picket fence, no porch swing, no driveway garden. Just a house. Inside, a family of 4 slept, 2 parents, 2 children. One of those children would be gone before sunrise. Her name was Asha Degree, 9 years old, black, bright, shy, beloved. And by the time the storm hit, she would already be missing. The Degrees were a close-knit family. Harold and Aquila, the parents, were strict but loving. Church every Sunday, homework every night. Dinner together always. They worked hard to shield their kids from the creeping dangers of the outside world. In their home, safety was something you could feel. Asha and her older brother O'Brien shared a bedroom. 2 twin beds side by side, separated only by a narrow aisle and a lifetime of laughter and whispered secrets. On February 13th, that Sunday, the day had been uneventful. Asha had gone to church with her family, then to her basketball game at Burns Middle School. She played poorly that night, fouled out early, cried quietly into her hands when the game was over. It wasn't like her. She wasn't a sore loser. Afterward, the family returned home. Asha did her homework. She ate Valentine's candy from school. She called it an early night. By 8 p.m., both children were in bed. At around 9 p.m., the lights went out from a nearby car accident. A power outage swept through the neighborhood. The Degrees, used to such things, pulled out candles, flashlights. Eventually, power returned. By 12:30 a.m., Harold peeked into the kids' room. Asha and O'Brien were asleep. Everything looked normal. At 2:30 a.m., Harold checked again after coming home from work. Both children still appeared to be asleep. But sometime between that moment and sunrise, something changed. Asha woke up. She climbed out of bed. And then she left. She didn't just disappear. She planned. That's what haunts people most. She packed her book bag carefully. She took her black Tweety Bird purse, her house key, and packed a pair of jeans, a long-sleeved white shirt, black overalls. She left behind Valentine's candy, a basketball trophy, her favorite clothes. And she left her family, without a word. No fight.
No yelling. No crying. No door slamming.
Just silence. Around 4 a.m., several truckers and a motorist would later report seeing a small girl, alone, walking along North Carolina Highway 18 in the rain. She was wearing a white shirt and white pants. She had a backpack. She was walking with purpose. One driver turned around, concerned, and tried to approach her. The girl ran off the road and into the woods. She vanished into darkness. No one followed. At 6:30 a.m., Aquila went into the children's room to wake them for school. O'Brien was still in bed. Asha's bed was empty. Aquila checked the rest of the house.
No Asha.
She checked the front yard.
No Asha.
She called Harold. She called 911. By 7 a.m., the search had begun. What followed was a frantic storm of motion. Officers searched the house, then the neighborhood. Dogs were brought in. Neighbors questioned. The search expanded. Foot patrols, helicopters, search and rescue teams combed the woods. For a little girl, in white clothes, walking alone in a thunderstorm. The backpack was missing. No note, no evidence of abduction, no forced entry, no signs of struggle, just a child-sized gap in the air where Asha used to be. Tips came in quickly. Witnesses who'd seen her walking south along Highway 18. Always alone, always walking. Some said they thought it was a trick, maybe a ghost, maybe just their imagination. Who lets a 9-year-old walk down a highway alone at 4 a.m. in the rain? No one stopped. No one called the police until hours later. And when they searched the woods near where she vanished, they found no trace. The only thing the dogs could trace was her scent, ending cold at the roadside where she was last seen, like she had simply evaporated. The town of Shelby came alive with fear. Hundreds of volunteers joined the search. Flyers were printed, candles were lit, tears were shed, but Asha remained gone. Then came the first real clue. On February 17th, 3 days after she vanished, police found a single item near a shed off Highway 18, about a mile from her home. It was a pencil, later confirmed to belong to Asha. The shed was abandoned, dark, drenched in mud and rain. The pencil lay undisturbed in the dirt. That meant she had made it there, on foot, alone, in the middle of the night, in a thunderstorm. But why? Why would a 9-year-old child with no known mental illness, history of abuse, or family conflict walk away from everything in the middle of the night? Was she running away, meeting someone, following something? More questions than answers, and no more leads. The case began to stall, until nearly 18 months later. In August 2001, a contractor working in Burke County, over 26 miles north of Asha's home, dug into the ground for a roadside project. He found something, a black backpack, wrapped in plastic trash bags, carefully buried. Inside were Asha's belongings. Her name was written on it, no mistaking it, but the location made no sense. It was far from where she was last seen, and someone had buried it intentionally, which meant someone knew, and someone wasn't talking. FBI agents joined the case. The backpack was tested, but no usable forensic evidence was recovered.
No fingerprints.
No blood, no hair,
No clues.
just silence. In the years that followed, the leads would grow colder. But one thing remained. The deeply unsettling fact that a 9-year-old girl left her home of her own volition and never came back. The question isn't just what happened to Asha. The question is, who was she going to meet? And how did they convince her to go? The search for Asha Degree did not end on February 14th. Simply changed shape. In the days immediately following her disappearance, hope moved fast. Urgent, relentless, hopeful. Volunteers blanketed Shelby and the surrounding countryside. They combed through forests, crawled through drainage pipes, knocked on doors. Police walked shoulder to shoulder through fields soaked in February rain. But days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and the silence began to stretch. Not just the silence of the woods, but the silence of whoever took her. The local news cycle gave her a name, the little girl who vanished on Valentine's Day. It was a cruel irony. 9 years old, vanished in the rain, on the one day meant to be about love. Shelby wasn't a place where children vanished. It wasn't a place where bad things happened, or so people liked to believe. But now every front porch light stayed on at night. Every school backpack was double-checked in the morning, and every stranger was eyed with suspicion. The Degree family stayed in the spotlight. Harold and Aquila refused to fade into grief. They spoke to news crews, to radio stations. They passed out flyers by hand. They kept Asha's room exactly the same. Her trophies, her dolls, her bed, untouched. They lit candles every Valentine's Day and waited. Then, on August 3rd, 2001, almost 18 months after the night Asha disappeared, there was movement. It came from 30 miles away, in Burke County, North Carolina. A construction crew digging off Highway 18 uncovered something wrapped in black plastic bags. It wasn't trash. It was Asha's backpack, still zipped, still intact, and still full. Inside were her personal belongings, a Tweety Bird purse, her house key, a change of clothes, a copy of Dr. Seuss's McElligot's Pool, a children's book no one recognized as hers, and a New Kids on the Block concert t-shirt size large. Her family had never seen it before. The bag had clearly been buried on purpose. It had not been washed away by rain. It had not been dropped. It had been hidden, sealed. That location, 26 miles north of where she was last seen, made everything worse. How did she get that far? On foot? Who took her there? Who buried it? The area where the bag was found was wooded, rural, and largely unpopulated. No cameras, no lights, just dirt roads and shadows, and silence. FBI agents re-entered the case with new urgency. They tested the bag, the contents, but no usable fingerprints or DNA were recovered. No trace of who had handled it, or when. The bag was buried at least 20 inches underground, wrapped tightly, carefully. Whoever buried it took their time. This raised horrifying questions. Had Asha been alive at that location? Was she kept somewhere nearby? Or was someone planting evidence to distract, mislead, or taunt? As the investigation expanded, the media attention began to shrink. It was no longer breaking news, no longer on front pages, but in Shelby, and in the homes of those who remembered her face. The case never faded. The degrees held onto hope with white knuckles. They created a foundation, spoke at events, begged the public for leads. Every birthday, Asha's room remained untouched. Every Valentine's Day, a chair stayed empty. In 2004, the case was reopened by the Cleveland County Sheriff's Office. Asha's file was revisited from the beginning. Officers conducted new interviews, reanalyzed the timeline, but the deeper they looked, the darker it all became. There were no digital footprints,
No emails. No texts.
no security cameras. This was 2000, before social media, before smartphones. If Asha had communicated with anyone, it would have been in person, or on paper. And yet, there were no letters found, no notes, nothing to suggest she'd made plans. And yet, she packed a bag. She left quietly. She was seen walking with purpose. She ran when approached. What would compel a child to do all of that? In the middle of a thunderstorm, what had she been promised? Over the years, theories began to swirl. The police kept most of their findings close to the vest. But certain rumors persisted, that someone may have groomed her, that she had been communicating with someone offline, that she was lured, maybe by someone who knew how to speak to children, maybe someone who said the right thing at the right moment, maybe someone she trusted. In 2016, the FBI, along with the State Bureau of Investigation, announced a new lead. A tip had come in from a prisoner claiming he had witnessed Asha getting into a dark green 1970s style car on the night she disappeared. Possibly a Thunderbird or Lincoln Mark IV. This was a major development, but it came 16 years too late. The car had never been reported, and no one else had seen it. The tip seemed credible enough for the FBI to reopen public appeals. But once again, the trail led nowhere. No car, no driver, no new suspects, only the lingering dread of what it meant. She didn't vanish. She was taken. The investigator's silence was strategic. But in that silence, more families lost hope. The degrees remained steadfast, still organizing yearly events, still lighting candles, still buying presents for the child that never came home. And then, in October 2020, a disturbing theory resurfaced. Asha had been reading a book at school, The Whipping Boy, about a young boy who runs away from home and has an adventure. Was she inspired by it, or was she encouraged? Had someone introduced the idea of escape as something magical, something exciting? Had she met a wolf in sheep's clothing? Someone who said, "Let's go on an adventure." She was 9, old enough to believe in stories, young enough to trust the wrong person. For every step forward, the case dragged backward into shadows. New detectives, new tips, same story. A child walked out into the storm and never came back. No body,
No witnesses. No suspects.
just a pencil, a backpack, A ghost on the highway. Time distorts when it passes through pain. Minutes drag, days evaporate, years become echoes of a single moment, repeated forever. For the Degree family, time stopped on February 14th, 2000, the day Asha walked into the rain and never came home. And every year since, it's Valentine's Day that hurts the most. Not because of what it's supposed to represent, but because of what it took. By 2023, the case had remained cold for over 2 decades. The FBI continued to list Asha Degree as a missing person. The family continued to hope, and the public continued to wonder, how does a child vanish without a trace? And what kind of person hides behind the silence? New theories emerged over the years. Most chilling, some outrageous, a few impossible to ignore. Some focused on the books Asha had been reading, others on a possible predator who had spent months gaining her trust. And then, there were those who believed something darker was at play. But to understand the most terrifying theory, we have to return to the backpack. Found buried nearly 2 years after Asha disappeared, that discovery was never fully explained. Who wrapped it in trash bags? Who buried it in Burke County, miles from where Asha was last seen? And why were items inside it things her family had never seen before? A book no one remembered her owning, a t-shirt too large, from a concert she never attended. To investigators, it looked like the contents of a trophy locker. Something kept, then hidden. This theory grew darker in the years that followed. Several experts noted similarities to behavioral patterns seen in long-term predator abductions. Gifts introduced slowly to build trust. A false narrative of adventure or escape. A plan to lure, not take by force. It wasn't that Asha was kidnapped in the traditional sense. It was that she was convinced to leave, convinced to walk into the storm. There's one chilling possibility investigators have hinted at, but never confirmed. That someone may have been visiting the area regularly in the months before Asha vanished. That they may have been watching the Degree house, learning schedules, waiting for a moment when the parents were asleep. Or distracted, someone who perhaps even spoke to Asha directly, at school, church, near home, someone she didn't see as a threat, someone who offered something she wanted to hear. In 2021, the Cleveland County Sheriff's Office made a public announcement. They had re-interviewed a person of interest, a convicted sex offender, someone previously linked to the area, someone whose name had been mentioned before. But no arrest followed, no evidence strong enough.
No confession.
And so the void remains, not just in the Degree household, but in every space where the truth should be. There's a story that haunts the investigators who worked the case early on. During the initial days of searching, one officer ventured into a particularly dense patch of woods near where Asha was last seen. He found a shack. It wasn't on any property map.
No mailbox.
No path. Inside, an old mattress, a rusted locker, children's items, some broken, some intact, a single pink hairband. He reported it, but it was never connected to Asha's case. Years later, the shack was gone, burned or collapsed. No one knows, but some who believe the worst think that's where she was taken. If only briefly, in the silence of unclosed cases, the mind fills the gaps. And in Asha's case, those gaps are wide, dark, and endless. Some believe she died that night, lost in the woods, taken by exposure. But if that's true, where is her body? How was the backpack moved? Who buried it? Others believe she survived. For a while, that she was taken north, maybe out of state. That she lived for months, maybe longer. And when she outlived her purpose, she disappeared again. This time, forever. Some theorists, fringe but persistent, believe she was trafficked. They point to the clean disappearance, the lack of a struggle, the methodical disposal of her belongings. The t-shirt that didn't belong. The book no one remembered. The sense that this wasn't the first time someone had done this, nor the last. It's a theory too dark for most people to say aloud. That someone practiced, planned, perfected, and Asha wasn't a random target. She was a child they'd been watching, a child they'd chosen. But theories offer no closure. They only echo in the spaces left behind. A twin bed, untouched. A basketball jersey still hanging in the closet. A child's handwriting on a spelling test folded neatly in a drawer. Every year on Valentine's Day, Harold and Aquila Degree hold a walk in Shelby. They carry candles. They wear t-shirts with Asha's face. They plead with anyone who might know something, anything. They say, "If you took her, bring her back. If you know what happened, speak. We forgive you. Just help us end this." But no one ever does. There is no ending to the story. Not yet. Just an empty bed, a closed backpack, and a stretch of road where a small girl, dressed in white, was last seen walking alone into the rain. If you drive that stretch at night, you'll still see signs with her face. Missing since 2000. Last seen on Highway 18. Age progressed photo included. And if you listen carefully, you might hear the question whispered in the wind. Where did Asha Degree go? And why did no one stop her?